Okay, everybody, welcome to this evening's stream. This evening, we're going to be jumping back into a level that me, Adam, Sean, and Maggie made a few weeks ago at this point during our sci-fi sci-fi season. We built a space colony over the course of a couple of streams, and the intention was always to come back with a couple of members of our art team who were going to come in and sort of give us some friendly critique, let's say. We're going to go through and give us some tips, tricks, and sort of talk us through the process of how they kind of approach these sorts of things. So what they've actually done is they've taken a copy of this game and they've spent some time making that look much better, I imagine. Adam's seen it. I haven't seen it. So I'm really excited to jump in and see what we've got there. So if you all want to say hello. So we're joined by Adam, Tack, our art outsource manager, and Lucy, our art director, if you want to say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Oh, let me just put across to there. Okay, cool. So we're going to start in the original level. So this is the one that we made on stream because we're joined by everybody here. So we'll have a little sort of wander around, I guess, a little tour, just so everyone's up to speed as to where we're up to. But first, perhaps, Lucy, if you wanted to just maybe introduce yourself and kind of what your role is at the studio.
Yeah, hi. I'm Lucy. I'm the art director at Unit 2 Games. I run a small team, a small talented team of artists, and we outsource a fair chunk of our work. And we make a lot of outfits and things like that. Fun stuff for people to play with and enjoy in our game.
Cool. Okay. And then Tack, did you want to just introduce yourself and again, just what you sort of do day to day at the studio?
Hi, I'm Tack. I'm art outsource manager, and I work with outsourcers to create all the props to be used in the Crayta editor.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So anything you've used, if anyone watching here has played Crayta, anything you've used in the editor, so the meshes, the cosmetics, all the outfits and things. So basically, these are the guys that are responsible for all these things and how cool they are. So I think, what we'll do is we'll just have a quick run around here. So we had a bit of a loose story that we were kind of sticking to when we came to make this, which I think is always a nice way to start these things. So the story was basically it's a sort of sci-fi colony that have come in and taken over this rather dusty Mars-like planet. So it's quite foggy, quite atmospheric. We created some fun little kit bash drills, and then accidentally they've, or maybe on purpose, who knows, they've come through into this sort of green cave full of alien eggs and all sorts of bad stuff like that. So then the plot would be that the aliens basically rampage through. So once we come back inside, we see that we've got some amount of sort of broken destruction, and Sean, our UI UX developer, did some really nice signs to just kind of really sell that. So again, UI, it's a really nice way to do that sort of storytelling that you can't necessarily quite get out of some of the meshes and things. And then we sort of knocked stuff over. So there's the aliens didn't like the lockers, so they knocked those over.
Is that right?
That was the aliens.
The aliens seem to be quite precise in some of the things they knocked over in what we've done. So they really didn't like the canteen. I remember Maggie made a right mess of the chairs over here when she they obviously didn't agree with the food that they put on. So so there's a few things we've done here. As I say, we probably spent grand total, what would you say, Adam, 2.5 to 3 hours on this?
Yeah, it was around that, wasn't it? It was over the course of 2 streams, I think. So yeah, about that time.
So
and you've done an incredible amount in that time as well.
Yeah.
Like the building of templates obviously really helps because you can just cover such a lot of ground of clipping bits together.
Yeah, and I think that was important when we kind of came into it. I think, Adam, you spent pretty much the entire first stream just templating out these sort of bits that we can clip together, and I went through and sort of white boxed out like a plan on the floor, so we kind of had a rough a start from that point of view. So those streams are available. They're on the channel to go back and watch, and we'll perhaps sort out some links in the description if they're not already there. for after. But yeah, do make sure you go check those streams out. They're quite useful, as to say, as a kind of a crafting and building point of view. There's a few things we covered around templating and say like level white boxing and coming up with a design and having a bit of a sort of an inspiration sheet to come from, so pictures and guides of things you want to try and build. And I think that always, is a really good way to start. But I think, yeah, so shall we jump across to your level now and have a look to see what you've done?
We can share some thoughts about what we felt about this level when we came into it.
Okay, yeah.
Had a good old look around.
Yeah, let's go for
that. So what we loved about it was that there was this story beginning. There's obviously something has happened here, something bad. And what was that? And how do you find out about that? How long have people been gone for? All sorts of questions that it raised. So, some things that we wanted to do to it immediately was to make it. We felt we got lost very quickly, so we wanted to give the players some guidelines about where they were. Some hints and some clues, and that doesn't have to be like arrows on the floor or anything as obvious as that, but like lighting clues, some slight key colors in certain areas, livable areas and things. And we also wanted to tell the story, and we wanted to make that like a dramatic reveal. At a certain point, the player will discover, oh, this is what happened. So we did do a fair bit of shuffling to make that story come to life a bit.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, as I say, yeah, I think it's always helped, and a lot of the story that we kind of came up with was almost like a hybrid with the chat. I know chat had a lot of input into various little things here and there about it.
And that's great. You don't need like a 60-page document for a story. Just a couple of lines will do, and our team just loves that. We can run with that for days, and we did.
Yeah, literally.
So yeah. So yes, do you want to go and check out the new version?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so we'll just jump over there. So I've called this one Space Colony Art. Let us know which one is the nicest one. So you and Tack Oh, sorry. I was going to say you and Tack were saying earlier in a little meeting that we had. You were saying about how much fun you've had, just kind of building out.
We had a great time. We were going to spend a few hours on it, and we went way over on that. We really enjoyed ourselves. Like I say, it's so much easier than having a blank sheet of paper when you've already got something that's begun, and you can see where they want to take it. For us to come along and art it up, just great.
Cool. Well,
it might be better to F5 in here, right? So
yeah, sure.
Doors open and things.
Jump into preview now, so that should be loading in now. So already, I can see that the lighting, is changed. That our map was left very kind of hazy and quite difficult to see.
Yeah, we tweaked that a little bit. It was we liked the haziness of it. It gave it a certain atmosphere, but we just pushed it back a little bit so you can see a bit more detail.
Yeah. I think lighting and fog is actually quite effective way to tweak your level and achieve a really nice mood. The fog was the starting distance of the fog in the last level was 100. I think it's set to 100, which is really close. So what I did was just pushed away. It's now about 1,800 or something like that. So you do keep the fog in the background, and if you look out, you can actually see the kind of a layering effect of the background as well, mountains. And for the lighting, I usually override the skylight, which is the ambient light, and make it really dark. This is probably about 0.3, so you get a really dark shadow now. The default is quite strong, so that's kind of probably the one of the first thing I probably do when I receive any level.
Yeah, the default light is quite an optimistic, cheerful lighting, which sort of goes with the general feel of Crayta. But if you want to create some mood, then bringing that down defines shapes some more.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think
so this,
hand over to you. I was going to say we'll just hand over to you. I think at this point, if you want to just take us on a bit of a guided tour of the new colony.
Yeah, cool. So, well, this is the canteen. We wanted to build some shapes that were recognizable. They sort of echo the corridors in here particularly, and to give each area its own, like say, key color, story, so that it makes sense of what's happening here. So this is obviously a canteen and living space. It's quite friendly. It's sort of open plan. You can see a lot going on out the windows. TAC did a great deal of work on these tunnels. If you come and follow me, so you'll be able to see other players running around, which we thought would make for some interesting gameplay over here.
Oh, so yeah, so you get that sort of that, you get that line of sight all the way through, kind of into a different area.
It's to give you an idea of where you are in the space that you're in. We built up the exterior, some quite unnatural for our planet planetary features, so you definitely know you're on another planet, even right from the start, the moment you land in here. I think I built this room mainly, and then TAC pretty much did everything else. He's worked really, really hard on it. So yeah, TAC, we'll follow you.
Oh, okay. Right. So yeah, there are a lot of good things in the previous level where you know I really love this tunnel, so I used that, and also there's a tunnel with the windows on it, which was a really nice idea. The only bit which had a problem was the window was a little bit low, so you couldn't really see out. So the first thing I did was actually change it so that probably show here, so that I yeah, if you come around the corner, so you can actually see out and up as well from the window, and that sort of gives you a view. But that also gives me a lot of things to work on, because I check every view from the window and make sure that what you see looks good in terms of competition and lighting. So it's a lot of work actually. I did spend probably more than a week to achieve this level.
I mean, it looks great. It looks great.
Part of the if you could come in this room on the fire. I really like the initial room, so I took that and then I added a garage, so that kind of story is that someone picked up the something and drag it into this here, and then someone torched it. But on the next cargo line of eggs, you can see I made it a little bit more clearer what you're seeing. Quite like the way that the lighting is actually falling onto the chain as well, if you look around. So these things I kind of care.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's kind of catching that kind of deep orange kind of light on that.
Yes. So let's go through this room, this door. I put this door a bit like a
No, I'm fine.
No.
Yeah.
It's because we did a fairly basic trigger on this door, I guess. So it's like one person at a time.
Sorry. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So this
I
is
just
like
delete them, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's much easier to get through.
Sciencey, like kind of like a lab room. I
I
wanted to
love
make
this
it
on
bigger.
the bed.
Yeah, it's a goo in it.
Yeah.
It
Really
reminds me of
storytelling.
Alien. But
Oh,
that's all
Yeah.
right.
Yes, something bad happened here.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And again, like lighting colors in here. Again, this like defines another area. This green lighting, and it's like a medical lab area. It's just it's a subtle nod to that.
I was going to say, yeah, the first thing I noticed when I stepped through is just how like the green kind of instantly makes it feel like a different room. But I know I'm still kind of within the same facility, but I think that green, just as you say, it helps you kind of as a player, especially when it comes to gameplay. If you're trying to coordinate with other people, you know, it really does help.
What I like from this window is I think we used Boop's desert buildings, and they're a bit like obvious and in your face before, and now they've been pushed into the background, so they're just in the fog enough that you can tell there's some sort of structure there that's not part of the rocky terrain, but you can't quite work out what it is.
Yeah.
And that's really nice.
We like those buildings because I know they weren't quite complete, but they added another dimension to the story. Like there are obviously people, intelligent life here, as well as just gooey eggs. Really quite enjoyed that.
Yes.
These gooey eggs have killed everyone here, so they know what they're doing.
Releasing some sort of deathly gas. Who knows?
Yes, if you could come out of this room, and then we've kept the core room. I think Lucy tidied up quite nicely.
I added the core, but I love the bins because they cast such great shadows.
Yes.
The kit bashing that you guys do
Nice,
is
nice.
I always find it quite enchanting.
Yeah, I'm sure the bins thing was one of my top tips on the stream. I can't remember what I said about it, but
They,
I feel like
do,
it was.
do cast great shadows, and that adds to the atmosphere and again that feeling that this room is an engineering room. It's got big metal things clunking around and all that movement. It gives a feeling of power, which you guys did. We didn't do that. I don't think we didn't do that, did we, Tech?
No.
You didn't animate this, no.
No.
So yeah.
No, that was.
And
that
I love that you use the monorails for the roofs of stuff in spaceships. I really
Yeah,
like that.
I was going to
Yes.
say it's a staple. If Adam's worked on a spaceship, there's a good chance there's monorail roof in it somewhere.
Always. Everyone's played Sci-Fi Prop Hunt, right? It's like 90%
Yeah.
monorail.
It is an excellent prop. Right then, continue the tour.
So this is the kind of like a big corridor with large sort of window, and you see huge monolithic mountain sort of thing, a rock.
Mhm.
That's you sculpt. You see, it's quite
Yeah.
iconic actually, and
yeah, I was thinking about those massive waves in Interstellar when they land on Milton planet, is it? And they look those aren't mountains. I remember that being like an absolute defining moment for me in that film. Like, the scale of where they are is not like anything we know. So I wanted to add something like that.
That film was just incredible in so many ways.
It was, and as you say, I think it like kind of brings it back to it's always good to have that point of reference for sort of inspiration. You know, if you can tie it back to something, I think that's always really helpful. And the scale, as you say, like the size of these mountains and the kind of the fact that it's not a huge mountain, but it's like quite a tall, narrow one. Like it just looks alien instantly, just because it's just it's not earthly.
It's not a shape you get on Earth, no. It's deliberate choice.
That's great.
Back up there's the canteen, which you get a reference to because you can see the red through the window. So again, that sort of helps with where you are.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Let's take this door.
Yep.
Up.
Yeah.
This is the crew quarter. The theme color was blue, I think, just to differentiate it.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So not just the lighting. So not just the lighting, but the actual. So you've got the blue voxels I can see as well. So I think that. So it's like the trimmings are kind of color schemed as well, which helps. Yeah.
Did we actually have crew quarters before? Or is this a whole new area?
You had some beds in the canteen area. You had a whole stack of them behind a glass wall, which was, you know, it's good to have those in, but we just thought that would be a separate area. Let's move that out.
I was going to create a toilet and a bathroom actually through this wall, but the time ran out, so I couldn't really get to that. I enjoy doing these things, like living.
Oh wow! I really like the tiny tables that each little thing has.
I like the TVs, the flat screen TVs.
Yeah, it's
old TV.
It's like 90% of their wall is just a big telly. Very future.
Yeah, and this detail on the wall here. So a lot of them, and again because it was a quick turnaround stream that you were doing, there wasn't a lot of like fine detail, which is what makes something come alive. So things like wires and pipes and lights. But this panel here on the wall and the fire extinguisher and the empty bag, all that stuff that tells that story of people who live here and use it. Light switches, for example, maybe not here, but plug sockets, and I think they call them greebles in the art business.
It gives a scale reference as well, so it makes it feel like
you're
in the right scale of things.
Yeah, and I like that each room has got its subtle differences. So it's clear that like the crew members in this room, you know, everyone's got the big red bag and there's the mugs and the chairs, but it's like each one is like slightly different configuration. So it's just, you know, everyone would stash their stuff in slightly different ways, and it's just all those subtle things that really start to, as you say, like make the whole thing come alive slightly.
Yeah, I like really thinking about who uses it, like what kind of person would be sitting on the bed, or you know, I'm like that.
It's a good way. It's a good way to approach it.
We're telling the story, and that's sort of what we like to do. We all think we're a bit sort of amateur filmmaker as well, which is okay. Oh, we've gone out the other door.
Okay.
So follow
Last
Tack.
last bit is the control tower. Oh, by the way, I really like this kitchen space that Lucy made. This is really nice.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm ready to design people's kitchens anytime.
I noticed Lucy's removed the meat soup vat that
Oh,
was
yeah.
here and the noodles.
I did. I did like it. I felt slightly unrefined, although I always
Yeah.
enjoy the noodle voxel.
Yeah, something slightly disturbing about just the huge vat of noodles as well. But I also enjoy that even in space, we've got time for like coffee mugs and coffee machines. Like that was clearly
Always time for
on
coffee.
their list of priorities before they've built the toilets. They've got the coffee machines in, so that's good.
Well, we're all game developers, aren't we? So we're
That's
like,
true.
what do humans need? Number one,
Coffee.
coffee, then food, then oxygen.
so
I think Tack. Yeah, go on.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I was
say-
going to say. So when you come out of the hall, the first thing you'd see is the big sort of a control room, a tower bit like structure, and I'm really proud of that. I think Lucy gave us a reference images that with in which that there are lots of sort of unique shaped towers and buildings. So I thought, oh, why not try making one? So if you take to the right, and then
But the other interesting thing about that view is that you're starting to see something about the story. It's just a little glimpse of something green happening in there.
yes.
See the lighting. So this is like the beginning of the storytelling for us. This was like the moment.
Mhm.
I think this started as your area, Russ.
Yeah, go on. You go ahead,
Oh,
Russ.
what
If
really?
you can recognise it. I think
Yeah,
so.
upstairs. Don't be scared.
Wow. Okay. Oh, this is so much better than anything I made. Oh,
So-
okay. I reckon there's my drill. I see my drill. Yeah.
Didn't do very much to the drill, I don't think. Stuck a blob on it and tipped it over a bit. But we enhanced this scene quite a bit. We added a lot of green goo, a green light, boosted your light by about 1,000, because we wanted this to have a dramatic impact. This is the moment we go, oh no, something happened. They made a mistake,
Hmm.
and something has exploded all over everything. And we wanted that. I mean, and ideally, you would have music as you go up the music would change as you go up the stairs. So you'd start to bring in the atmosphere of like something a bit foreboding in the music,
Oh, nice.
and then you see it. The oh my gosh.
Yep. The
explosion.
big oops.
I really love
Yeah.
the detail on the windows of like the green stuff splattered against it.
Oh
Yeah,
yes, that's still on
It's
the.
just
Oh,
really
cool.
nice.
Yes, you put it on, and I thought, oh, that's a really good idea.
But, oh, there. Oh, yeah. See. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, that's a really
you could have
cool
done
use
more
of
with
that
that,
mesh.
yeah.
Actually, it's like the underside of the goo, isn't it? Yeah, that works really nicely.
Yeah, let's splattered it on. It'd be nice. It'd be really, even better if we could have a damaged version of this window, but we didn't have that mesh.
No.
have to ask the art director to get one made.
Yes. Yeah.
If you look at towards the hall, I'm really proud of the view that from here as well. That your pods and all
Oh,
the
yeah.
corridors and tunnels that catches the light, and which makes it really like a settlement feel.
Falling down the hole.
Yeah.
Oh
and,
no.
Hello.
Hello.
You can't get out actually.
Oh, no, I'm. Oh.
Are you
dear.
stuck?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm stuck.
I don't
Until
think
you
it's
get
out.
high. I'm in jail.
Yeah.
That's okay. We can
I
jump back to the
try?
editor soon and get you back.
Okay.
As you
Yeah,
say,
well,
Tech.
that's the end of it, really. Apart from that, the exit. So you had sort of a emergency gate that was open, and we did tied it up a little bit.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So
How?
is that
Oh, I've
down?
escaped.
Sorry,
I've
Lucy, I
escaped.
should have.
No, it's all right. I'm out. I'm outside now. I'm all
Okay.
right.
Cool. Is there a way to get outside?
Oh yes, it was through that same gate. So
Oh, I think I'm. Oh,
Where
yeah,
are
there
we?
we are. I can see you
Right.
jumping.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, I
So
see.
this
Yeah.
is the emergency room. We tied it up a bit. and-
Okay. Now, okay. This is what I recognise again. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, is this your area?
This is my area.
can't-
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah.
Ooh, water.
Yeah, Lucy put the water in. I thought, oh, that's a good idea.
But I think
And
water's good, and again, it just sells the fact that there is the potential for life. I guess that's kind of the number one sign of life on planets is water, isn't it? So, a closer look at Boop's buildings. I think Boop's here in chat.
I think
Yeah,
so.
okay. They're configured in a different way as well. They look really nice, actually, in that sort of.
Oh, yeah, sort of.
Quite temple-y.
Yeah, I have to combine parts.
So
But that's
stuck.
India. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Right.
Sorry, I'm crawling around under the building now.
I was press F5. We'll just jump back into the editor. Just give you
Okay.
chance to bring Lucy back. But yeah, that's amazing. As I say, that's so much more than I expected you guys to sort of do. But as I say, I'm glad you've spent the time to actually, you've enjoyed doing the process. I think that's great.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Yes.
So if anyone in chat watching actually has any questions for Tack or Lucy, I think that now would be a great time to maybe get those in chat. Put you on the spot a little bit, but yeah, any questions about kind of the thought process and just generally, about ways to approach level design and that sort of thing. If we don't get to them now on stream, then we can always post those to them and get back to you on our Discord. So if you're not on our Discord, do make sure you join over there. It's discord.gg/Crayta. So I think what might be useful now, if you had a bit more time, is to maybe again just if there's any more you wanted to talk about your sort of process coming into it, or if there's anything, any more tips and tricks and things that people can look out for when they're designing levels and sort of building these sorts of environments.
Yeah, we put together a document when we started our intentions of what we were going to. Bear with me. What we were going to, what we wanted to do to it, what we wanted to add to it. So we both had like something to look back on and so something written out that we could just refer back to. We had some questions for you guys. How long did the incident occur? Is the base run over by nature at this point, or is it just a couple of weeks ago? Things like that informed our decisions. Did anybody escape? How long had the colony been on the planet? Now, I think that your colony was probably there less time than our colony in the end.
Yeah.
Quite a lot. And then the last one is, are the aliens still around? Which they sort of are in egg form. But,
yeah, it's like they've ravaged the whole place and then left the eggs to sort of attack in a second wave a bit later.
Like COVID.
Yay.
Yeah, keeping it topical.
I shouldn't have said second wave, should I?
Yeah. So and then we decided like a list of things that we were going to do. So we wrote it out, made a plan. We redrew the plan so that we could tell our story. We redrew that on paper, with the control room overlooking the where the eggs have exploded open. So we sort of had because we were going to work together, and then we found some reference for the exterior and for the interior, and we just referred back to those. That was our plan for making our changes, if that's of use.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just looking through the references actually. So I've got those up on stream, and I can see there like your references to like the big waves and the huge cubes, and then you've almost got some sort of like sort of Midwest America, like Arizona, that sort of red rock area as well. And I guess it's that sort of combination of things.
Yeah, and the idea isn't to, because the trouble with sci-fi stuff is that most of your reference is concept, or is something that someone has already imagined. You're not looking at real life situations in a lot of cases. I think the Arizona rock is probably the only thing that is of this planet, and I do try not to use other people's concepts as a starting point, because you're diluting an idea that someone's had. But with sci-fi, it is a lot harder. So we try to use it as reference only and not copy it.
Okay, so I think there's a couple of questions coming up in chat. They should be relatively safe questions. The first one from Iceland is where to start and sort of what options and decorations do you typically tackle last? So I guess when you came into it, was it kind of environment first or lighting first, or like what were the things that you kind of wanted to get out of the way? What did you save till last?
I sort of tweak both of them in parallel, I think, actually. So I don't know, it's kind of more like a personal thing, but I try to find a hook, hook sort of, I don't know, whatever the detail, whatever things like. For me, it was the tunnel, and when I put a window up in the tunnel, everything started to sort of folded in front of me, and then I started to put together tunnels, and then decide to set the lighting around there. So I usually work on the rough environment first, and then set the lighting, and then
That's quite
change
sorry.
change the angle, and then I keep adding stuff, environment. But as I expand the world, I also constantly tweaking the lighting as well, so that I get a best angle. I think, for me, it's about choosing the right or the best option is what I do. So I've got variety of options in front of me, and I constantly check and test what's the best way to settle on. That's why I take time. And so in order for me to reach the lighting as is, I changed quite a number of times, and I went back into the game and sort of run around, make sure I wanted to sort of hit. So I used to have a light direction opposite way for a while. Excuse me, for a while actually, and then towards the end of it, I flipped it to 180 degrees when I started working on the exit. So I constantly keep changing, and also along the way I find some better way to do things, or look sort of things that looks better, and then I go back all the way from the start and then sort of update stuff. And the template is really good because I can update it instantly. But so I can't really give you a clear answer to that. I constantly doing
Quite
everything.
interesting because I have quite a different approach. My background is environment art, and I always start with the biggest building or the biggest feature.
Right.
So I start with the canteen. So I try and nail that. I try and get that to work for me because it sets the scale for the rest of the level. It's you set the thing that's the biggest thing that people look at. So I sort of feed out from there, and I probably tend to get smaller and smaller. So I do the big stuff, and then I get down to the nitty gritty. So
I think that's
for
better.
me, I did this. I don't know.
wish
I
I
don't
could
think
do
there's any
that,
good
but I
one
can't.
way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately
there's always that
the answer is
moment.
it's a personal thing, isn't it? I guess it just depends how you
Yeah.
best work.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always that moment where you think, "Oh my God, is this actually going to work?" So there's a point. It's like an hourglass for me, where you get to the middle, and it's either going to go horribly wrong very quickly, or it's going to go right quite slowly up the other way. But there's always this tipping point where, I mean, I had it with this building, like, oh, what am I doing? And then it comes together, and then you know you're right, and then it informs itself at that point.
Okay, great. So again, just a couple more questions. So developers asked a couple of questions. I think we've kind of covered it, but just I guess to reiterate. So it says, do you guys usually just jump in and start changing things and let the rest of the story develop? So I guess kind of you kind of build story elements in as you build, or do you decide on a common story first? And then I guess kind of tying into that is another question from the developer saying, what do you make sure gets done before you actually start building?
I think with the first question, it can be better to know what it is you're trying to achieve. You can get some nice results from just sort of freestyling and working your way through, and some happy accidents, but quite often you can go off the rails, and that's quite a time expensive way to work. So you sort of want to know what you're trying to say. In my experience, Tack will probably say the opposite because we work very differently, but I don't know.
No, I really like to have a sort of a background sorted before I go in. So I come in, and so yeah, I'd like to plan it.
Yeah, having a blank sheet of paper is the hardest thing. You can't, you don't know where you're going to go with that at that point. But it's very, very hard to put down the first thing. Which is why we got so carried away with what you've done, because it was just like just the right amount of work to like pick it up and run with it. What was the second question? I forgot.
The second question was, what do you make sure gets done before you actually start building? So is there, like, I guess, is there a certain minimal amount of things you'll have written down in a plan or a paper, or even I guess in your head, but it's like, what's the bare minimum I guess that you would have in place before you actually started laying any voxels?
So I quite often try to sketch out a map or a plan, a drawing of what it is I'm trying to create, and I almost always try and find some reference images just as a starting point, because you can't remember every it's very easy to go very wrong with something you're trying to remember. So having some reference in front of you to like pull you back, and just things like proportions and detail that will, you forget, like the certain shape of a window will absolutely nail that building in that place and that time in the world. So and you forget that detail, and you've missed it, and some things become quite bland and generic. So I think reference is really, really important.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I agree everything. I do also sort of scribble down the map, and I think I have like 2 versions. Also, when I'm working on the level, I tend to sort of watch like film or put film on so that I can get into the mood. I think this time it was the Martians, because I really like that Martian. I really like that film, and I think I watched probably three times something in a loop. But yeah, so I do that. Or music, maybe, but reference is really important, and I agree with that completely.
Okay, music's an interesting one. So I remember a couple of years ago I was at an event, and there was a talk that someone gave about game design and inspiration, and where you can find inspiration. And in my head, it was like, for me personally, I guess most of my inspiration comes from other games. But as a programmer, I tend to think, how can I copy that mechanic, or how can I improve that mechanic in my own games and that sort of thing. From an art point of view, I guess it's quite interesting, because there's a lot of different things you can use. So there's obviously film, as you say, there's other games, there's imagery, there's art, but music's an interesting one. I don't think I had never thought that music would be kind of a good inspiration for a visual product, but that's quite an interesting thought.
I think it keeps your brain focused, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of, I need to get into the mood, I suppose, and yeah, it really helps. If you're working for like a games content though, the actual game level, it's slightly different, because you'd have to work out what the game is about. And this sort of project we didn't have a game in it, so we kind of sort of did everything we want to do and change a lot of things. But if this is like a first person shooter, then I'd probably have to have that game mechanic in place, so that I can constantly test how game works out as you build a level, or sort of prettifying the level, so that I can know where the player is going to look. And that's probably quite important, how the game works out, or how the camera works out in the game, is something that I need to sort of have before I go into the work, I think. It's different this time, but
yeah, I think that raises a really good point, actually. So coming into this, we have been quite open about the fact we don't know what game we're going to put into this. Like, it was always intended as as an environment build to show off kind of how amazing things can look in Crayta. But we'll certainly try and find some time to put a game in it. It feels like it'd be a shame to not have a game in it. But maybe part of that initial planning before you actually build it is to decide what the game's going to be, and then, as you say, that I think that will automatically fuel a lot of decisions, won't it? So, as you say, like the camera perspective of the player will have a big difference. If they're on an orbit camera, obviously the camera's further away. You have to think about, will the camera be clipping through walls, and if it does, you've got to think about what the other side of the wall is going to look like. And yeah, I think there's a lot of the general size and scale of the map will really vary depending on the game. Is it an adventure game, or is it a sort of tight kind of close quarters first person shooter, as you say?
Yeah, that's so true. The camera is really important for us.
Yeah.
Okay. So who's next? So Richard's got a question, actually. Bossman Richard asks, how long did Lucy and Tax spend making this amazing change? So
Oh, it's about 25 minutes, Richard.
yeah, it was
Definitely not a
just
loaded question. It's
Yeah.
just
fine.
lunchtime today, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure you just jumped in at lunch.
Yeah,
and,
just-
No,
yeah.
I
Knocked it out,
started
yeah.
Thursday, I think, last week, and worked through weekend a little bit and overtime. So I still haven't finished. So,
I did about a day on it, but I then I got pulled into other things. But yeah,
yeah, it is time consuming for me. It's probably because, as I said, there's so many options or so many variables you can try out, and finding the best thing out of it takes time. And if I didn't like the composition, and if I decided to move the building a little bit towards the left or something like that, then everything's going to get a knock-on effect. So I have to start applying the changes and make sure that corridors are not, are connected to each other and things like that, and lighting. And so it is quite a time-consuming work. The template really helps, but you have to come out of the template and make a unique one, and then start customizing it for that location. And sometimes it doesn't work, so you have to do it again. And so it is enjoyable, but it's not easy thing to do. It is time consuming.
But
So yes, over a week, I think I'd say,
over a week.
working.
But I mean, I'm just trying to think. In Crayta terms, that feels like quite a long time. But in terms of actually being able to produce an environment that looks and feels as kind of well polished as this in a week is still, it's quite an amazing feat, isn't
really
it?
fast. Yeah, because normal development, you have to think about assets and breaking down the assets, and you have to first you have to have a concept work and then start from there really, and then we break it down into little bits and pieces of assets, and then start creating assets and then put it together as a game. So it's a really long process. So from that point of view, yes, Crayta does have a line of props already made, and all I have to do is just combine them and try to make a world. So yeah, it is a quite short time comparing to the sort of a normal game making.
Yeah, definitely. I think Richard agrees. That's a good point. So I think we've earned some brownie points back, so that's good.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm really pleased to see all the props that we've been making in sort of a showcase like this. I'm really happy. Actually, really feel happy now today.
Good.
It's like every bit of it has a memory, for me, and even the little sort of angled column and window frame and things like that. And Jason created a concept for most of them, and we work with outsourcers and Lucy, and sort of getting this done to this state, and it's really nice feeling actually.
Yeah, I guess it's quite special because you spend a lot of time with all of the individual assets and making sure they all individually work, but then to have the time to put them into a scene, to really sort of push what they can all look like with some of the other older things. So as you say, like with the old monorail roofs, those monorails have been in the game since the beginning, but it's still nice to see they're useful in certain ways.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay, so I don't think there's anyone, unless I've missed any questions. Let me just have a quick look.
Yeah, so I think Slater B-Burn was asking, how do you stay focused? Because when he's building, after 1 to 2 hours, he tries to rush to get it finished. So how do you stay focused on such a, I guess, quite a big project?
I think you get results, don't you? And you start to get quite excited about what you're doing, and then you're in the zone, and then you realise that 4 hours has passed. And I don't know if that's helpful to your particular issue, but I mean, and me and Tech are well practiced at this. This is our job day to day, is to focus on making art, and we do that for 8 hours a day. So we are practiced at it. But as to what good advice is,
I think sleep on it is good for me. So if you're trying to make something work and it doesn't, and you feel like you're stuck, you just leave them and sleep on it. Because usually I push myself really hard, and then around if you approach like a midday or something like that, you kind of start to get tired, and I feel like whatever I make doesn't look great around that time, and then I sort of stop and then wake up, and with a fresh set of eyes, the work that I did in the sort of previous night looked really good actually. So to freshen up your brain and the eyes, I'd recommend to just stop and then sleep on it and then look again. I think that really works for me, or
And
work
another,
somewhere
yeah.
else. Sorry.
Another thing would be to take screen grabs of your progress. So when you're starting out, take a screenshot after about an hour in, and then come back to that and look how far you've come. And you suddenly go, oh wow, I've moved this on quite a long way actually. And then and so there's nothing better than like looking back at where you started and going, wow, look at what I've made. I find that quite useful.
That sounds like a really nice idea, because I've often spent a while on something, thought it looks quite good, and I think, oh, I've improved this a lot. I think, have I? And then I can't remember if it looked any good to begin with. So that's a really good bit of advice.
Yeah, I think that's something that Slater B. Burns mentioned. I definitely suffer from the same issue, where I kind of spend, a few hours on the first sort of 20%, and then about an hour on the last 80%, where I want to wrap it up and I want to finish. And there's always an obvious like slip into just like the madness, just to kind of get things finished and to start taking shortcuts. And I think, yeah, just almost pausing at that point and realizing that there's no need to rush, and then coming back to it later when you can kind of fully focus on the next 20%, and sort of break it up into chunks like that, I think will definitely help as well.
I know. I get really excited and want to show people what I've done really like quite early on. And I always have to like just pace yourself.
Yeah.
And then you like, I could take a picture. Oh, I don't know why I showed you that. It's not finished. And then.
I tend to sort of trust myself, my feeling of good. Like when I see something really good, I get this particular feeling, and I tend to not stop until I get that. So that's probably one of the other reason why I spent so much time on staying on the level. But I trust that feeling, and I don't stop until I get it.
Yeah.
So
you do when something's good, you get that excitement, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, this is working.
Yeah, that's
and then there's the opposite side of that coin where it's going wrong, and you're like, oh, throw it away.
I do throw it away actually if it doesn't go anywhere.
Well, I mean, I guess that's quite an important lesson though, as well, is don't be scared to start again. It's just because you've got so far down the line, it doesn't mean that. I guess not start again, but to remove work, because it's always learning, isn't it? It's always part of the process.
Right. It's part of the journey.
Yeah,
it's not going
Crayta. Crayta's very forgiving in that way, in that it doesn't take long to put things together, and it doesn't, and you can just move stuff to the side that's not working and restart, or just copy and bring it over and work on a version and then delete the old version if that's, it's forgiving. And it saves your work every 30 seconds. That's quite nice too. Not working in a bit of software that crashes on you.
You can always roll back as well. You've got all that sort of option to restore previous versions. Okay, so I've got a couple more questions from the developer actually. So what percentage of your time would you say is spent building something that eventually gets torn down to be replaced? So rephrase, how many passes do you normally make over your creations? So I guess that's kind of tied into what we've just said, but yeah. So how often do you find yourselves kind of iterating on something?
I find if it's not working, then I'll start again, because sometimes something can't be saved. I think once there will be a certain Rubicon that's it. You've got to start again, but you will have learned what went wrong. You can't make good art without making mistakes, because you have to go down the different paths to find out which is the right one certain times. I mean, I'm much better these days at not getting it wrong, because again, I've been making art content for 20 years, so I've learned a lot of like what not to do. But saying that, I still have stuff that's terrible, and then I don't show anyone. But not a great deal. I don't think I've torn down a great deal, because I've got good practices in place, like reference and keeping an eye on things when they go a bit off scale and that sort of stuff. It sounds a bit big-headed, but it is experience, I think, a lot of that.
So interesting. That kind of ties into the next question from Taylor Bombard, is about environment building, and is that something that just takes practice, or is it something that you can kind of, are there tricks that you need to learn in order to get better at it? So is it practice, or is it something that you have to learn to get better at?
Both. It definitely, there's practice does really help, because like I say, you have to make mistakes to know not to do them, and you have to be able to recognize those mistakes, and so that you don't keep making them. But I think there is a lot that you can learn. You can like always check out other artists and what they're doing, what they've made. There's some incredible concept out there that you could sort of borrow and build in Crayta, say, and see how that goes. And that way you're directly learning from these concept artists that have all this experience. And I think, sorry, I'm distracted by reading a comment, but I think that it is, that there are ways of advancing yourself, but it is practice. You've got to put in the time, I think. I mean, there are some people who are just massively naturally gifted, and we hate them.
Cool. Okay. I think we'll probably start wrapping up soon. A question I actually had, I've just been trying to think, and probably something you can chip in with as well, Adam. So now we've got this environment, and we're kind of, we can say, attack, you've got some more bits you'd like to do, but we're kind of at a point where we could come in and start adding some sort of gameplay. So is there any sort of game type or game mode, or sort of a game that you've envisioned that this would be suitable for?
I've kind of intentionally create like a loop. So the lab connects to the garage, that connects to the corridor. So you can actually chase, or it's like a, I don't know, the hub hall connects to the living quarter. At the moment is sort of a dead end, but I try to avoid making dead end, so you can actually, I don't know, chasing each other or killing each other sort of thing. That might work, I thought. That's the only thing I had in my mind when I was working on it. I try not to create a dead end, and make sure that it kind of loops, so you can actually hide it. Also, the corridor has a glass, so you might be able to see other players running in a different corridor through the glass windows, and that could be interesting. So these two things I sort of had in my mind, that if you're sort of chasing each other, that would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, not really.
To be honest, you should probably. To be honest, you probably shouldn't let art dictate gameplay, because if a game can look beautiful, but if it's no fun, no one's going to play it. But I mean, I'd like to see a massive like escape room, because I like escape rooms, or an adventure game, like a puzzle adventure game. I don't think there's enough of those in the world in general. So that's what I would probably play.
That might be quite cool. Yeah,
like a mystery.
Introduce a couple of like locked doors that you've got to sort of solve to get through the locked doors, sort of thing.
Gotta get fuel for the buggy to go out into the landscape to find the something to get back to get the, assemble the communications, something. I don't know. I'd quite like that.
That sounds fun.
That does sound fun, actually. Yeah, no, that sounds pretty good. I don't know. What about you, Adam? Anything come to your mind after you've had a bit of a run around?
I mean, I was just going to say, I think as Lucy touched on, we wouldn't recommend starting with the art of an environment before you know what the game is. If you still plan to add a game to it, that's just the way we've done it for these streams. And we'd normally try and come up with the game. If it was me and Russ making it, we'd block out the gameplay in a very simple, what we'd call white box sort of level first, and then start arting it, if you like, around that. But as I'm running around this, and with what Tak was saying about how there are a couple of dead ends that sort of might have closed doors and stuff that would lead to the outside world, I'm thinking about the story of this world as well. So the fact that we've landed here, or we being like humans have landed here, set up a space station, but aren't really welcome here, and have had to try and defend themselves, and something's broken in. I'm having thoughts about some sort of asymmetrical shooter in which maybe we're the last survivors of the colony. So like one team are the humans who are the last survivors. They gather up with weapons, maybe in the canteen area, and their job is to defend the base. Maybe there's a few objectives to capture or something. The other team kind of play as the aliens or the other life form that lives outside the base, and they get to come in. So we'd open up those dead ends. So all those closed doors that we have in like the lab and stuff, we'd open up, and the other team can actually try and break in. Maybe they don't have normal weapons. Maybe they've got alien guns or axes or something like that. They have to get in and try and take the objectives or kill the humans, survivors. Sort of game I was thinking of.
Yeah, that sounds. I mean, we made a game a long time ago, which was quite popular before launch. Just one of our sort of test games, which was the Quarantine, which was that sort of alien monsters in the vents kind of infection game mode. So I think there's a lot of options we can go with here. I do like the sort of the idea of an adventure escape room type thing. Feels quite, there's a lot of threat that you can introduce in space, like oxygen levels and food running out, or all sorts of different dangers that you can introduce that aren't necessarily weapon based, which would be quite an interesting sort of story mechanic. Cool. Okay. So any sort of final words or thoughts from yourself, Lucy, or Tack?
Someone said turn it over to the community as a world package. I think that's a great idea. Just a big template, see what people come up with. Any further thought? Just that we had such a good time doing it, and like I say, it's because it wasn't just a blank piece of paper. It wasn't just come up with some nice art. It was, we have built a story and a framework. Go nuts. That was great.
Yeah, it was great fun actually I had, and yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Away from the normal work.
Yeah. So as I know this has been quite a popular sort of format. So do let us know if you're watching in chat now if you'd like to see this sort of process again. We can do something entirely different. It doesn't have to be space related. It could be almost anything. So yeah, do let us know if you'd like to see this format by like the video or leave a comment in live chat, or if you're watching this sort of archive, do drop a comment down below so we know. It's a really nice way for us to sort of keep engaged as to what streams people do like to see. I've had a blast. People have picked up on it in chat, but most of the time for the stream, I've just been in my drone with my controller, just like gliding around trying to get the most cinematic shots that I can. So I think there's been some pretty cool shots come out of it. Brilliant. All right. Well, I think that's, as I say, we're at nearly 8 o'clock. So I think that's a pretty good place to wrap this up. So once again, thanks, Tack and Lucy, for the work you put in here. As I say, we'll do our best at some point to try and turn this into a pretty cool game. As I say, or we can work out ways to get this out as a template to the community. So yeah, thank you very much for joining in.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for us.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. As I say, it's been a pretty interesting look at the sort of the level of detail that we can get into sort of an environment like this. And obviously, there's a lot there to take into consideration. So the planning, the process beforehand, the lighting, the way, all the things you can do to really sort of emphasize like kind of the way the game will play or the way the environment will feel. So hopefully that's been useful. As I say, do let us know in the comments or liking the video if this is the sort of format you'd like to see more of in the future. I know Tack and Lucy, they said they had a great time doing it, so I'm sure they'd be up for doing more of these further down the line. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we end the stream. We did have a new comic drop yesterday, I think it was, so do make sure you check out the latest issue. We'll see if Adam's ready to drop a link into chat. For that, you can come and join us on Discord. We're pretty active on Discord, and we do our best to sort of engage with people on there. We answer a lot of questions around Crayta and sort of technical help and all that sort of stuff for your specific games as well, not just Crayta itself. So that is discord.gg/Crayta. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram. So that's at Crayta Game on both of those platforms. It's a really good way to keep up with all of the latest news and all the sort of goings on of Crayta. And Instagram's quite a nice one to keep up with a lot of this sort of visual aspects, so concept art and you said things like the comic and all that sort of stuff gets shared out over there. And then as always, do make sure you subscribe to us here on YouTube. So we've got the weekly streams, and we get a lot of sort of on-demand videos out. So we do the weekly tutorials, A lot of our teaser trailers for various up and coming events will land on YouTube. So do make sure you subscribe and sign up for notifications to get notified as to when all those videos are going out. We'll be back next week on a slightly different schedule. So we'll be streaming on Monday night instead of Tuesday night. If you subscribe to us on Discord and jump in, you may find out more about that a bit nearer the time. But yeah, exciting reveal, essentially, exciting announcement happening. But we'll have to move that to the Monday night instead. So do make sure you tune in on Monday night next week. As I say, subscribe to us on Discord and you'll be kept up to date with all the latest news and announcements. So brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Again, thanks to Tack and Lucy for their time in this. And we'll speak to you later in the week.